Hey everybody, this is Tanya from TruGossip, where gossip meets truth, where your voice can be heard and your opinions matter. Tonight we have two new guests. The first guest we have is the One Chemist. He's an artist, a songwriter, and a host of his new podcast, Team One, The One Chemist. His new album coming soon, Luxury Classic, is out now. Operation South Mixtape available on DatPiff, DATPIFF.com, and all major mixtape outlets. Our other guest is DMT, the rapper. You might have seen him on YouTube. His video Stamina. And our returning guest is Shabazz, who has that wisdom, and Kinlaw, our free thinker. And of course, my host, Ramel, and together we are First Cousins. Go ahead, Ramel.
First Cousins. Well, welcome again to TruGossip, to the ladies edition. And we're going to get right to it. And we're going to start off, part of this segment is with the ongoing protest, and now going on 3 weeks, and also an additional death that recently occurred. I wanted to get the perspectives of hip-hop rappers. What kind of influence can they have with making change? What kind of influence can they have with the protest? What can rappers do? There are some rappers that are on the front line, but are they doing enough? Could they do more? So I want to start off with DMT. What can rappers do to help the cause?
One thing I believe that rappers will be able to do is impact the crowd. I mean, obviously, we're not going to listen to no police officers because that's why this all started in the first place. But when you're a public figure, a lot of times that you can speak positivity into these protests, into different situations, because violence, it's only going to occur more violence, to us. So if we're able to direct these protests in the right way and be able to let people know looting is not where it's supposed to be, and have the real value behind these protests, I think that we'll get a lot further with the outcome.
Okay. And One Chemist, thoughts on that?
Yeah, what I think that these artists can do is not only just be on the front line, but make sure they use their platform in the best way possible, and direct the people to whatever organizations that's out there on the front line, so they can go out there and help, or maybe donate, or spread the word as much as they possibly can. Artists do have big influences, so they can do a lot of things that people will follow them, because they are the streets, so the streets follow what they do. So anytime that they steer people in the right way as far as positivity, or what they need to do, or where they need to go, or whether it's a post, or whether it's a song, or whether it's anything that they can use, it helps and it counts, and people actually follow their direction because artists are powerful.
Dean, just to piggyback off of that, I mean, do you think rappers do enough? Do you think they can do more? What is your take on it?
Yeah, hey, peace and blessings to all of the guests and everyone. I think that the youth, that they have the influence over the masses of the people, but I think they should have a message in their music. When I was coming along as a youth, we had powerful influences from artists such as Public Enemy, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers. They were spreading wisdom through their music. So I think that in every major revolution, music plays a major part in that, because again, you can get the masses of the people through your music if you put the positivity and the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in that. Peace.
The Southern Free Thinker, Kinlaw, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of content that's out there amongst rappers. You're going to have those rappers that do continue to share positive content within their music, but then you also have a great portion of rappers who will tell you anything but nothing that's possible in regards to law enforcement. And so you kind of have an internal infight amongst the two entities. I remember as a kid growing up, you had the East Coast All-Stars. And remember, we had some duress that took place at the time in the late 80s, early 90s, and they came out collectively. Like a lot of artists from up north came together, and you came up with the song Self-Destruction. You had it for self-destruction. you know, empowering the people of the community. And that to me was very influential to see a lot of different rappers from different backgrounds and different styles, different tastes, whatever, but they came together for one common cause. Then what happened was you had the West Coast All-Stars came up and did their version of, you know, stop the violence and all the other stuff like that as well. So I think from a rapper standpoint, I think if we were to get like all the regions to kind of have those rappers get together, you got your southern region, your up top, your northern region, you got your Texas, and then your West Coast, you know, just have a group of artists come together and just say, hey, listen, man, we here for one message, you know. At the end of the day, this is what it's about. It's about unity and all that good stuff and, you know, giving respect back to the people. So I think that's one way that rappers can give back and try to help influence, because we've done so much to kind of put a negative influence in some of the content of some of the records that have been out there versus the ones that are putting the more positive spin on things through their music platform.
Before I toss it to Tanya to close out this question, I just want to comment quickly. And I feel like Tajuddin, you know, I may be a little older than some of y'all on here, but I remember when rap was strictly substance or either just party and fun. And during the late 80s, you had guys that rap with substance. Rakim,
KRS-One.
KRS-One, Public Enemy, you know, and of course you had other rap out there as well, but there was some meanings. He mentioned Poor Righteous Teachers. That's a group that may not have gone past New York or Jersey, you know, but when they said something, they was dropping instrumental jewels, Brand Nubians, you know, so I think that rappers could do a little bit of a balance and give us some, J. Cole, I think he tries to drop it. Lucas Joyner tries to drop it. But I think you can give a balance because you guys, the rappers right now, probably have more followers than any other celebrities out there except for like your LeBron James of the world. But you guys definitely have an effect. Tanya, how about you close out this segment?
Yeah, what rappers can do to help with the protest and the cause that's going on. You know, I was listening to everything that, you know, all you gentlemen said on here, and I believe that, you know, the rappers, y'all do have a great influence. I mean, if y'all talking about gun violence or something like that, you know, they're going to follow you. You say something positive, they're going to follow you on that also. So if you got that message out there and it's positive, you know, you're going to have them follow you because they want to be just like you. They look up to you. So I was just looking at one of the, I posted it, y'all might have seen it in TruGossip group, where Babyface and a bunch of artists all came together and they did one of the things like We Are the World back in the day when Michael Jackson and all of them did, you know, when they was going through something. And I believe through music, it can be an influential thing, and whatever the content is, it can be heard, you know, and through your music, I believe that you can make a change in somebody's life. So that being said, we're going to get to that second question. And the second question is, should rappers or singers be held accountable or responsible to help give back in their communities? Go ahead, one chemist.
I was actually going over that question earlier, and artists, they definitely are responsible because it's the communities that invest in the artists. So these artists are, you know, getting paid by us, and we go to their shows, and, you know, we buy the albums and the clothing and whatever have you. So artists does has a responsibility to make sure they give back in a big way, because all of the money that they make, they can invest in the schooling and just the neighborhood itself, and maybe not their neighborhood, but other neighborhoods, or, you know, around the world. So they do have a responsibility, and they should give back because, like I said, we invest in them, and we spend our hard-earned money to make sure that, you know, they're supported. So they definitely should give back in a major way, and make sure that we can show these younger kids that, you know, wherever we come from, that they can do it as well when they make it.
DMT?
I mean, yeah, Chemist pretty much nailed it. I mean, yeah, I agree with him totally. It's because basically, when you the big brother, All right, so you look out for little bro. You look out, you pick up some of the pieces, you encourage him, you take care of him. Sometimes you may end up, helping out with his college. You may end up, that's big brother. So when you not even nationally known, let's just say if you're locally known, you are like big brother to the city. So people really admire you and look up to you, rather anybody else know you in the other, cities or the other states. So you do have a responsibility to take care of, where you come from, because without them, you are nothing. But it's not even just about that. It's just about it's supposed to be in your heart, man, especially if you come from that place and that place actually lifted you up. You need to make sure you put them on your back, and you come up with different foundations to help out the youth, because you know where you come from. You come up with different kind of programs to be able to keep kids in a more positive mind frame and stuff. So that is our job.
Yeah, before I go ahead to the next guest, I just want to say I was gonna piggyback off you guys, like being in the neighborhood, being big brother and stuff like that. It's not always about money. People think that you always have to give money, but sometimes all you have to do is invest your time. Invest your time. Invest going to the schools, talking to them about different things, how
Yep.
you came up. Even maybe going like being that big brother, or if you're a female rapper, being that big sister, and just mentoring them and letting them see you don't have to be in these streets. That's just one of my ways that you can give back if you don't have
Yeah.
money to give. Tajuddin?
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what people were saying, it's like you had when Biggie was alive. He always represent. He was from Brooklyn, but he always give a shout out, and he did a lot for his community. Jay Z, Marcy Project, he does a lot of things. Akon, Wu Tang Clan represented and gave back to Staten Island. So yeah, they have to. They back you. You came from them. It should be duty bound that you take care of your hood first, and then represent, to help everybody on a major cause. Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Ken Law, what's your thoughts on that question?
As far as accountability, uh, I struggle with this. I struggle with, matter of fact, when the questions had rolled out, I struggle with a number of things because, it's one of the things that T-Pain had said at one time, it's our life, but it's y'all entertainment. And a lot of times, yes, you have a lot of examples of rappers giving back. I mean, Nipsey Hussle was probably the best example of
Oh yeah.
trying to just put
Hmm.
the hood on his back and give
Mhm.
back. And yet you still have some trials and tribulations with that. It's a catch-22 because a lot of these rappers and entertainers can't even go back to where they're from because of let's just keep it 100. They can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna get into details of that, but we know what it is. And they'll relocate and they'll
Hmm.
live somewhere very nice and whatnot, but they still rap about the gutters and all the other things when it's not really even a part of their lifestyle anymore. And I think it's our responsibility to let people know that at a certain point it becomes entertainment and that's not really their life, but you got a lot of fans that cannot differentiate the two. So even though they might be giving back and this and that and the third, they'll go back in the studio and still spit like they're right there on the corner. So it's just a
Hmm.
number of different things that I feel like is complicated. We take one step forward, but then we take two steps back, and that's why we can't get a solid movement. A lot of people have mentioned something about giving back to the hood, but there's no ownership in the hood. I get it. You have to start somewhere,
Hmm.
whether it be some clothes, whether it's putting some money in some kids' pockets, whatnot, donate some book bags. But, where's the real residuals going to come into that? And I think that a lot of cases, when you had, for example, the guy who paid off everybody's tuition for Morehouse, that right there is going to give some good residual back. Because now, instead of those kids being caught up in debt for the next 10, 20 years, they can start off on positive equity. I just think it's not what we do, it's how we do it, and being more creative and thinking outside the box of what we can do to give back to help us as a community come up. So
Yeah.
that's just what I think on that.
All right, so before I hand it over to Ramel, I just want to piggyback off of what you said, Ken Law, about the rappers can't come back into the community, and I'm thinking the same thing. They can't, even though they probably want to come back in the community, but because they're so known and stuff like that, they might be targeted. I don't know what happened, with Nipsey Hussle and stuff like that, and why, this man had to die trying to help out his community. But maybe you know, they don't come back because they're scared to come back. They're scared that something might happen. Ramel, your final thought on that?
Yeah, I kind of feel a little bit like how Kinlaw feels. I don't want to put too much on rappers. You know, I don't think it's their responsibility, and they shouldn't be accountable for the whole community. You know, because at the end of the day, we are all responsible for ourselves. I mean, any of us have children. Our children's role models shouldn't be rappers. It should be their parents. But I would say this, I like the idea that they don't forget where they come from and they do give back to the community. And giving back to the community could be several ways. I'm not going to hold them for I'm not going to hold them for being accountable for the neighborhood, because, you know, giving back, maybe they could come rebuild or make over a rec center. Maybe they could come back and you know, set up some tutoring program, you know, tutoring dwelling where people can go and get tutoring and things of that nature. Yeah, I like the idea of coming back maybe on career day and giving inspiration to the youth. But, you know, to say make them responsible and accountable, I think that's the job of a parent. But yeah, they can come back to the neighborhood and do a few things other than just a barbecue or a block party or fund this basketball tournament. It could be a little bit more than that. But with that said, we're gonna move on to the next question. The question is dear to my heart because I'm really struggling with this right now. You know, with all that's going on in the media, especially with unarmed black men getting murdered by police officers, COVID-19, you got senators coming out saying that the reason why black people have COVID-19 because they don't wash their hands. I'm gonna tell you something. I really believe that they don't have value in us. They don't think we're valuable as people. And I feel like this. I think something has to do with, especially when it comes down to how we address one another. I'm not a component of the N-word to address my homie. I'm not a component of using the B-word to address women or using the H-word to address women. And I think that if anything, that's a responsibility of the rappers, maybe comedians and others, if can you refrain from using that in your music? If you did so, you would help other races see us with value, because now instead of using the N-word, B-word, and the H-word, maybe we replace that with king, queen, and wifey. Your thoughts on that, TNT?
My thoughts on that, man. I mean, it can go both ways. So, I mean, it could come out that way. You calling, you know, kings and the replacement, you know, queens. I mean, yeah, and it may impact. I mean, it may make people see us in a different light. Like, okay, so they doing a little U-turn real quick, you know. But at the end of the day, it may not, you know. But we don't use it in a negative standpoint. I know what you mean by the question, like, if we allow other people to be able to get rid of the word, like we're helping them to do that, and also to see us in a different light, you know. But that's an expression that we use for each other, you know, not in a harmful way. It just, you know, I don't feel like we should have to substitute it. I mean, honestly, to make no difference, because if that's the case, you see how we're protesting right now. You see how slow of a difference that's going right now. I mean, yeah, we are accomplishing a few things, but it's bigger than the N-word, you know. I mean, I feel like it is. So I don't think that it, you know, it really would make a big difference like that, you know.
Before I pass it over to the one chemist, you know, our aunt, Tanya and our aunt, she said to me one day, she said, every time she watches a Nigerian movie on Netflix, she never hears the word N-word or B-word mentioned. I go a step further. I watch a lot of London shows. I never hear the N-word or B-word. Today, I took the time out to talk to a Middle Eastern employee on the job, and I asked him, in his country, did they use the N-word? He said they didn't know the N-word until they got here. So I think that our use of N-word and B-words somewhat allows permission, because I don't think Quentin Tarantino should have the right to use the word 150 times in all his movies. Your thoughts on that one, Kim, is how do you feel about the N word, the B word, and the H word?
Really, if you look back on just the history of that word, the N word, the B word, and the H word, we accepted it through our culture. You know, whether it came from East Coast or West Coast first, and it trick because we wasn't doing that in the East Coast in the beginning. That started mainly in the West Coast, but the N word, we use that based on conditioning and based off something being programmed into us, and we just turned it into something cool, to justify the word of it. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We shouldn't be using any words at all derogatory towards each other, but we created it as culture to, I guess, be satisfied with the words, which is actually, it's like reverse psychology within ourselves. It's like we use it, in a good way, or saying that we use it in a good way, but it's really, it's a bad thing that we use, and we so conditioned. We just have to get it out of our, mind state. It's in our mental. It's never gonna. Some of us have to actually like reprogram ourselves from saying these things and these words. So it's gonna be a hard thing to do for some people, and some people don't mind saying it. I don't mind saying king and queen. I think sometimes I have a problem with maybe saying the N word, not even realizing that it could be hurtful to others, especially as we get older. Sometimes the word can be hurtful and it's cringy to some people. But I don't say the B word because that's something that I was raised, not to use, or within music or just in general. So that right there is just something that we bred it within the culture. We created it and we made it cool, and in order for it to go away, there's going to be a lot of deprogramming within our system to make it go away. And sometimes people has to lead the pack and be a leader, but it's going to be uncomfortable because whoever leads the pack, sometimes it's going to be a lonely road. But if somebody can step out like a Jay-Z or a Kanye and tell everybody, hey, let's not use these words, I'm quite sure a lot of people will follow. But it takes one person to be brave enough to step out there.
Or the record companies just say we're not going to publish your song. So it's a step above y'all as well. It's not something that you could do solo. It's got to be a joint effort. So I understand that. Tajuddin, your thoughts on that?
Yeah. There's power in words that we say. And again, the MCs and the rappers have that influence, like we've all said. So therefore, it's like we shouldn't use it. We should eliminate it because, again, it's a derogatory word towards women. It's a derogatory word, the N word, towards us. But also I understand where it came from because, again, if you notice in our sojourn here, every few years we go through a name change anyway. But then we're the only people on the planet that use our derogatory name to describe ourselves. You don't hear the white man calling themselves cracker, or the Hispanics calling themselves sticks, or the Irish calling them. But why are we the only ones? So I understand that it has been included in our culture, but it's a derogatory word that we've embraced, and we need to really eliminate it. Because nobody else does that but us, and it's a form of self-hatred. Because even with the LGBT, you don't hear them saying the FAGGOT, calling themselves that. Well, I didn't say it with an OT, I said it with an ET. But we get into the phonics, or the phonics of saying, well, I didn't say it with an ER, I said it with an A.
Right.
Come on, let's drop it. And again, it takes those influential rappers or MCs to take that step, and it's going to take a group effort to eliminate that word. Peace.
And just to add on to what you're saying, Tajuddin, is that the fact that the Spanish doesn't say it among themselves and breathing life into it, and the fact that the white folks are not saying it among themselves and breathing life into that word, guess what? We don't see it in movies. We don't hear it in songs. We don't hear it in music, whatever the case is. But because we constantly breathing life into it, you see it always alive in everything. So that's an excellent point. Southern free thinker, what do you think?
I'm gonna try to stick with my time on this one. I'm guilty of all of that. And you know, when you're speaking of entertainers and rappers and whatnot using these type of languages in their music, I can remember being a kid listening to rap songs in the '80s, and you didn't hardly hear. You might hear "damn," and that's probably the only cuss word you might hear. Then Luke and Two Live Crew came along, and when they protested against the freedom of speech, First Amendment, all that stuff, that's when you start to see rap kind of take off in a whole nother direction. And when the whole gangster rap scene came on the play, everybody was able to say just about anything and everything they wanted to say. It was no more rules anymore, and it pretty much took off from there. I agree with DMT. It's bigger than the words. It's bigger than those two entities of the words. Because I'm mature enough, old enough to know, and throughout my travels in life and my engagements with multiple different people, there's a derogatory word for almost every ethnic group, whether we're aware of it or not. There are your Southern whites, there are your Northern whites. Northern whites have a certain saying for Southern whites, and vice versa. There are your West Coast whites. And I know for a fact that they have certain views and things in nature about Southern whites or North whites. So everybody has a certain term, Hispanic terms, everything. So I think that just goes around. I know that to me, it's more of a generational thing about as far as how we use it, how we say it. I know if I said it at grandma and grandpa's house, I probably was sleeping outside for the rest of that night. If I said it amongst my parents, they would educate me on what that word is about and why I might want to caution myself on how to use it. If I said it at the basketball court, I might get a high five. You see what I'm saying? So again, going to your point, Ramel, because that word is being used so much, it's became desensitized in order to feel the wrath of what it is. But it's one of those things where it's like, what I say about my wife, you can't say about my wife. You see what I'm saying? But then again, that's almost hypocritical. So I think it's a totality of the whole culture itself. To me, I think there's bigger issues with the reality shows that is exploiting people like us. Because what happens is they look at those love and hip hops, they look at those Chicago, and then they look at the drill music. You know, if you look at any one of those videos, you know, it's glorifying violence and things of that nature. And people are more visual. People are not more into listening to words, they're more visual of anything. So when they look at that, they paint a broad brush on how that describes us as a whole. In my conversations with people, especially these last couple of weeks, everybody wants to point to black on black violence or Chicago. And then they take it from that to the rap culture and all this other stuff. And because of the glorified violence that comes along with that, along with the language, that's why people are having this very shallow, ignorant point of view of how they perceive us as a whole, when we all know better. So I think it's bigger than just the words, but it's just something which is going to be tough.
I mean, listen, we all have some interesting takes on this, and I get it, I understand it. I'm a proponent of wishing that we can eliminate it totally, because I think it devalues us. So we're gonna let Tanya close out this segment on this and hear her thoughts, but I definitely would like to see it eliminated. Your thoughts, Tanya?
Yeah, my thought on it, you know, I'm going way back. I might be older than all y'all on here, except for Ramel. But I'm going back to Richard Pryor. He's a comedian. And Richard Pryor said that word, and he said it, and he said he's going to say it because he wants everybody to say it. He said he's going to describe himself as that because that's what he is, you know. And why he thought that way, I don't know. I guess maybe because he wanted to get, you know, the laughs and stuff like that. But because we call ourselves that, because, you know, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm guilty of it, and not calling myself that, but saying that in my conversation. But for the past couple of months, I've been truly trying not to use that. And when I catch myself saying that I basically stop and say, oh, I gotta stop. I can't do that. So it's not just about other people being an influence. You have to be an influence of yourself. You have to know that that's not who you are. You have to be able to stop yourself from going further into that, saying those words and degrading yourself. How do you feel about yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you remember why they was calling your ancestor the N-word? Do you understand that? So if you can understand that and you can control yourself, then maybe we can get rid of that word. I see Tajuddin has his finger up. He might want to say one more thing before we go to the next question.
Yeah, just to add on, and I'm a comedian also, But in the later years, when Richard Pryor went to Africa and visited, and he saw all of that, he said he would never use that
You
word
said
again.
that.
So again, positive education always corrects errors, as we say, PACE. So when you educate yourself on the knowledge of where it came from and blah blah blah, then and again he had albums with the title of that. But when he educated himself, he said, well, I won't use that word again, because when he went to the motherland, he noticed that he didn't see that over there.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to add on. Peace.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and close out, and I'm gonna go to the next question. And you're right, and that's why I was saying, if you educate yourself and you think about what you're saying and understand where that came from. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the last question, and we're gonna try to wrap this up quick. Music can be a great equalizer, a tranquilizer. Should artists attempt to move across racial lines and work together to bridge races together? I already see that happening. I already see, the white and blacks, and even Hispanic and stuff like that coming together and bridging that, working together as one artist. Go ahead, Ken Lo. I'm gonna start with you. You go ahead, and this is gonna be the last question. It's gonna be the last thought on that. Go ahead with that question.
Repeat the question again.
Music can be the great equalizer, tranquilizer. Should artists attempt more to cross racial lines and work together to bridge races together? Like, with this Me Too, this Black Lives Matter or whatever, how can they come together?
I agree. I think that musicians are has big influences amongst the masses, especially in the rap genre. I think the rap genre is the most diverse group of people that is in by far any other type of category of music. So I think they have a huge platform to make a difference. And I think you do see a number of rappers and entertainers coming together for a common goal, and they are helping to unite people, because I think people can relate to some form of fashion, to that particular artist, especially when that artist has a positive message, a part of you. If you ever went to a J. Cole concert, everybody's vibing to the dude. From all different backgrounds, all different cultures, all different ethnic backgrounds. So I think T.I. and he's using his podcast to try to uplift, educate, and get across and reach out to people that he wouldn't normally do through music. I think that humanizes him. Instead of T.I., now he's Tip Harris. You know what I'm saying? The person. So I think you're starting to see a lot more of that now. So I definitely agree that equal is the biggest equalizer, maybe even bigger than sports, because I think the rappers are much more approachable in a lot of cases versus a lot of the entertainers of the professional sports world.
All right, Tajudeen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that revolution, which is a complete change, I think revolution can be spread through our music and hip hop, because again they have the beat, but they just have to put the wisdom behind that. So I think it's a good revolutionary tool, just like reggae was in Jamaica and the Caribbean. One thing I wanted to throw in there was that in Iran, revolution was spread by tape to the masses of the people, which overthrew the Shah. So again, I see hip hop as a revolutionary tool if applied correctly. Peace.
Yep, DMT.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's already happening now. It is. And I feel like music is the tool to make that happen, because, music brings people together, whether it's at an event or whether, it's at concerts, like Ken Law was saying. So, I feel like the more collaborations out there, because, all right, for instance, my girl, she Hispanic, right? So before she came around, I really wasn't listening to Hispanic music as much. Not that I didn't like, Hispanic music or people. It never came as an interest to me. All right. But now that's what I do. I may ride in my own car, listen to it. Now I look at that culture so much different, and I actually dissect that culture to kind of see exactly what they've been through, because everybody been through something before. But if you don't have no connection, then you will never look at it that way. And the music was that connection for me, which is going to be that way for a lot of people. And why? It's because Drake did a collaboration with one of the Hispanic artists. And then now I like Drake. Now I like that Hispanic artist. And now I'm listening to the Spanish, the Spanish music, the Spanish culture. So, and then also I got a heart for them. And you see, that's why people out there for Black Lives Matter, because maybe music brought them a little closer to, someone that they may be marrying, or a spouse, or when you listen to music, you learn to love that music, that artist, but also that culture that artist represents, and in that way, you dive more into who that person is and where they from.
All right, the one chemist. That's our last question. Let's see what you got to say about that.
Well, music in itself is a spiritual instrument, because it can be used to spread chaos, or it can be used to spread love and peace and harmony. And since I've been, watching and observing, during my life, music spreaded so much peace within time, through a Bob Marley, through a Michael Jackson, and through other musicians. And I've witnessed a lot of barriers, racial barriers be broken, and people who was once racist, become, loving to other races due to music. So music is can definitely be used to heal the spirit, and ease the soul from a lot of hatred, and bring a lot of peace to your heart. So what I would say is, if you use examples like a Bob Marley and all of these people, this stuff that I do, as far as with music, I use it to spread awareness, of what's going on in life and in the world, and to bring peace to people, and to understand that everybody has a struggle, but also you can also be happy, and have love and harmony. So music is definitely an instrument, and I think that we need to use that to spread more, so people can find a lot happiness within themselves and for other people.
Yeah, I don't have a final thought on that one. Ramel, you can go ahead and close us out with that final thought with that one.
It's funny, growing up in the 70s, right? Music was so segregated. In the 70s, you had soul music, you had rock music, and it wasn't until MTV came out with videos to where you came to pop music, and videos made music popular. And shortly after that, probably the biggest collabo in rap history
Aerosmith.
was when Run DMC and Aerosmith made Walk This Way.
Right.
To me, when I look at this question, and it says like crossing racial lines, or I think that what could be helpful, because rap music is the only music that rebirth other artists. I mean, they take a sample from the 70s or the 80s and make it hot today, and that artist just comes out of nowhere and is on tour just because of that one song that a rapper sampled. Rappers are so influential that if they was to collaborate more often with other artists from other genres, I think it would bridge communities together. I mean, rap as a whole has probably bridged more communities together than any other music. So if rap was to collabo with, say, more country western music, it may make a difference. If they collabo with more rock musicians, it may make a difference, because rap has that ability to do so. Something about rap music has got the attention of all young kids, of all races. I think that rappers in the minds of young kids, regardless of race, is probably the coolest musicians out there. So yes, I think that if they cross the racial lines and collab and do music, I think it can make a difference. And Kimlo, did you have something to say before we go?
I mean, I hear what you're saying on that, and I think that rappers have done that over the course of time. I mean,
Not enough.
in recent years, you had Nelly. He made country music cool again, because a lot of his songs kind of mimic that. You have a lot of different collaborations. You had Justin Timberlake collaborating with a lot of different rappers. So I think the pop culture, along with the rap culture, has always been kind of in line with each other. You had Ice-T back in the day when he came up with the song. I don't want to say the whole title, but it was something to do with cops. But he tried to bring awareness to the issues that was going on then with the rock band. So I just feel like we just got to continue to educate and just inform our fans, and try to separate the entertainment versus the reality of what takes place in life, you know. But yeah, I think music can definitely help out with that.
We're gonna close out right there. I do think it's far and in between. I think it could be more that can be done. But I'm gonna tell you, for this episode, I want to appreciate all the guests that came on. Tajadeen, Kinlaw, they're regular guests, but to have One Chemist and DMT, the rapper, to come on and bless us with their thoughts and their insight. And look out for their music. They sound like two young guys that definitely got a bright future and their head is right. And I just want to thank y'all for coming on True Gossip. It's a platform where everybody has opinion. Everybody's opinion matters. And it's a place where it's not that you're right or wrong, but it's something where we can just converse and possibly learn from one another. So on behalf of my co-host Tanya and myself, we are first cousins. And thank you for participating. Peace and blessings.
Yep. And before we go, I want the One Chemist and DMT to tell us exactly where we can find you, where your fans can find you, and what you got going on. Go ahead, the One Chemist.
Well, you guys can find me at all of your stores online, Spotify, Rap Shady, Google Play, everywhere. So you can find me in all your digital outlet stores that you look up to. Amazon, and I'll be there. Words from the Soul is out. I Need a Beat is out. So as soon as you type in the One Chemist, TheOneKemist, it'll show all the albums, all of the mixtapes, and as well as my singles.
DMT?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, DMT, the rapper. So that's DMTCHERAPPER. You can type me in on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Apple Music. I'm working on my third studio album right now. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's interesting because I'm talking about the things that's going on right now. So it's kind of dear to my heart. I'm switching it up a little bit for the people, giving them back that 2008. So.
All right.
I'll be looking forward to
you know what? Let's give our guests some hands, y'all. I mean, thank y'all for coming out and sharing your thoughts and and everything. And please follow them, like them, share their music, do all of that good stuff. We appreciate you. And then we want you to follow us, True Gossip, First Cousins. We want you to follow us. We said you can subscribe to YouTube, hit that little bell. So y'all, so when we upload this video, you'll be able to see that right away. We have our group, True Gossip, capital T, capital G. Go in there because your voice matters. We would love to hear from you. But even if you want to come on our show, inbox us. Let us know what issues you want to talk about. We love to have you. Again, this is True Gossip with myself, Tanya, and my cousin Ramel. And together, what are we?
First cousins. Peace and blessings.
Thank you guys.